My name's Gareth Williams. I'm 67 years old. I live in Llanarth and I've been in Monmouthshire for the last 40 years approximately. When I first retired, I was looking after my mum, and it reached a stage where mum needed 24-hour care. So now she's in a home, but I found I had lots of time on my hands, and it was trying to think, the kind of things you think, oh, if I've got time, I'm going to do loads of fishing or whatever. And I started off doing that, but very soon realised there's only so much fishing you can actually do and enjoy it. So it was looking for something that I felt was worthwhile. And I've always had an affinity with wildlife and nature. And that appealed to me when I basically did a search online for volunteering opportunities. And up came various soup kitchens and all sorts of things. But the wildlife is the one that appealed. So then I got in touch with Gwent Wildlife Trust. And I've been with them now for about a year. The whole range. If I did each of my 6 sites consecutively on the same day, it's about a 40-mile trip, and it can take maybe 4 or 5 hours, I suppose, maybe 6. But I spread it over 2 days. I've got some shopping to do. I'll stop off and do some shopping on the way.
I'm Kath, and I live a couple of miles outside Libanus and Brecon on the banks of the Afon Tariff, which is one of the upper tributaries of the River Usk. I've been doing this for about 18 months now. We test for a range of things. So we look at the turbidity, the clarity of the water, and we test for electrical conductivity, phosphate, nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, and we also look at water temperature as well. For me, I spend a lot of time in the outdoor environment. I'm and I'll often walk along this stretch of the river. So for me, it's on my doorstep, and I'm interested in knowing what's happening. And it also means I maybe pay a little bit more attention when I am walking along the river to what's going on, what I can see. So I find that it's interesting for me. And it's also interesting to meet some of the other citizen scientists and to find out, what they're observing and what's happening on their patch. Yeah. But I think it helps to provide some evidence and information. So I think certainly we hear a lot about rivers in poor health, but we actually need some measurements and some data to actually back that up and to see how it varies over the course of the Usk and with time, and whether it's actually the case or not that there is a problem with water quality. So I think we can help provide some of that information to supplement the other information that's there.
Just want my scientific kit here basically saved me from getting my knees wet. Oh yes, my name's Tony Buggust and I've lived here for 20 years. Well, we do 3 rivers. We do this one here, Erin Brook, and we do a couple of others, but this one runs through my garden. And I think the reason that we started doing it in the first place is that we've lived here for over 20 years. And when we first came, there were a lot of fish, insects in the water, bullhead fish they were. And we've noticed that over the years that's really declined and there's no fish left in there anymore.
Well, we can't see them.
Well, we can't see them, but you come out at night, shine a torch, and the fish would be fluttering about. And the other thing that's declined is the insect life. So we had a lot of damselflies, dragonflies and damsels every year, then they've really reduced. Yeah. So we still get those, but in much reduced quantities to when we first came. And we just had a question mark about, well, what's happening? Why has there been this decline in the insect and fish life in the river? My wife usually does the tests. I collect the samples.
I wanted to monitor the river because I sort of felt quite angry, really, that the rivers were losing their quality. And I'd heard that, some of the government officials saying, well, we just don't have the evidence that that's the case, that, there isn't enough evidence that they're losing their quality. And I felt that that this could sort of contribute to that, really. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to do it. And because I live here with a lovely stream outside, and had noticed that it was getting less and less full of all the insects and fish that it was 20 years ago when we first came. And I felt that I wanted to contribute. Well, what I gain from it is that I feel that it's very easy to sit back and, wish that somebody else was doing something about our rivers. And I feel now that perhaps we could be part of the solution to any action that is taken to clear up the rivers,
Probably carried out 120 or 130 tests since I've been working here. So I'm one of, I think, something like 100 volunteers that are doing this. I'm doing 2 sites, so roughly 65 on this site over the last 18 months. So that's given, I'd like to think, quite a good sample of what's going on. And if that's replicated across the whole of the Usk catchment, that's giving some really good data to work from. Why do I do it? I enjoy being outside, and it's a good excuse for a walk up here once a week, which is nice. But I'm also very interested in, what's happening to our rivers and the quality of the water, and if there's anything we can do which might help to improve that, it's got to be a good thing, really. As far as I can see, over the last 18 months, it's given a very good picture of the Usk catchment as to what's happening. And I think that will allow the bright people to try and, if they can see where there are pinch points, where there are issues with the water, then they can hopefully be addressed.
I think over the years, I've lived here for 20 years, and I can see the river changing, and I feel that people aren't realising why it's changing. So it was interesting to know that Gwent Wildlife were advertising the possibility of volunteers to help monitor the river, and then they explained exactly what the volunteering would entail, and it was testing the sort of quality of the river. I've noticed that the fishing is changing. I'm not a fisherman, but I'm a fisherman's wife, and there's plenty of trout, but there's no salmon, and in fact people haven't caught salmon now for over a year, and you want to try and explain why. So it was interesting to know that we'd be able to sort of get some information as to what the quality of the water was. And hopefully, if it's demonstrated that there's a severe problem with the quality of the water, that's why the fish aren't here, then the evidence is there for something to be done about it. Sometimes the river seems quite lifeless. Well, it isn't completely lifeless, but it's not the same as it was. So that's what made me wonder what's going on, and is there anything that we can do as an individual person, or is it the bigger picture, the big agencies that need to be involved? So the opportunity came along to train with Gwent Wildlife Trust, and I just thought it would be a good opportunity to find out what's going on and try and possibly do something to help.
It's very lucky to be able to spend the time doing it. It's actually quite interesting because you feel you're actually being a scientist. You're sort of doing quite sort of meticulous testing. Not that I absolutely understand what it all means, but you do feel you're sort of contributing a bit, and it's such a pleasant environment to be able to sit and enjoy every week, see the wildlife. It's very satisfying.
Not everybody possibly has got an hour a week, but if you do, I think it's quite nice to be part of a bigger picture. Personally, I'm interested in knowing what's going on and why it's happening. What can we as individuals do about it? But actually, it's nice to be part of a bigger team here, and it's not just us. There's quite a few citizen scientists now. We have encountered a little bit of scepticism of how accurate our data is, but actually, I think it's becoming widely known now that the data is pretty accurate. The water blitz has helped to establish this, And, it's quite nice to be part of something a bit bigger than yourself.